big sob. Winning is how I feed my family, and now I'll never fight again. I wasn't sure if he was lying, but then he slapped at his own legs, screaming he couldn't feel a thing. So the ref waved frantically. "Get a medic out here now!" The crowd booed me for paralyzing a legend. Jason reached out a shaking hand. "Please, just let me have this win. That belt is the only way I can provide for my kids." The ref knelt beside him, then looked up at me. "A real champion would give it to him. Are you really going to take everything from a man who can't walk?" Everyone turned to me, waiting, and I knew if I said no, I'd be the cruelest sore loser alive. So with my heart pounding, I placed the belt in Jason's hands. The second it touched his palms, his tears stopped, and a grin spread across his face as he raised it high to a roaring crowd. But giving him that belt was the best thing I could have done, because right then, the medic sprinted into the ring. Jason's grin vanished. "Wait, I'm okay now. I don't need a doctor. Just let me celebrate." But the medic knelt and pulled out a reflex hammer. "If you can't feel your legs, we have to check. Hold still." The arena went silent as he tapped Jason's knee and his leg kicked straight into the air. The medic looked up. "He's not paralyzed. His leg's fine." The crowd started booing, but Jason grabbed the belt and scrambled up to run, but his foot caught the rope and he slammed onto his back with a loud crack. He screamed that he couldn't move, but this time nobody believed him. The belt rolled to my feet, so I picked it up and stood over him. A real champ doesn't get handed the belt. He takes it. So get up and take it from me. He couldn't. I was at a boxing tournament and landed. A woman put her dollar into the hospital vending machine, but the candy bar she selected got caught on the coil and wouldn't dispense. She immediately started punching the glass, but the candy just wouldn't fall. I went to the vending machine beside her and got my own snack cleanly, and when I looked over, the woman was now on her knees reaching her arm up through the dispenser slot. I asked, "Why don't you just use this vending machine?" But she didn't even look up. "I want this one." I thought, screw it, and put my own arm in the dispenser slot to help her, but the candy was too far away. I got her a wire hanger, but after it still wasn't long enough, I suggested we rock the vending machine back and forth. She grabbed one side, I grabbed the other, and we rattled as hard as we could. She kept repeating, "I don't have much time," but the candy still wouldn't fall, and the woman started tearing up and shook the vending machine like she was angry at the world. I laughed because I couldn't understand why she wouldn't just use the other machine. Then she started trying to crack the glass with the wire hanger. A nurse walking by told her, "Ma'am, stop, or we'll have to call security and press charges." But she replied, "I don't care," and kept trying to break the glass. The nurse walked away, and suddenly, the woman drove her elbow through the glass. It shattered and cut her, but she didn't even flinch and pulled out the candy bar, mouthing, "Thank God." She just turned around and walked into a room 5 feet away. I saw her sit down next to a terminally ill boy. She unwrapped the candy bar and held it to his mouth. The boy took a tiny bite and smiled. He finished the candy bar, and his monitors flatlined. When she walked out of the room, I told I was sorry for her loss, and she instantly hugged me. That was my son's favorite candy bar. Thank you for helping him enjoy his last few minutes alive. I realized what seemed like a joke to me was her granting her dying child his last wish. A woman put her dollar into the hospital vending machine, but the candy bar she selected. Me and my sea crew were hauling treasure chests across the ocean when we heard a scream. I dropped the rope I was holding in shock. I hollered, "Pirates incoming! Keep the Queen's gold safe!" My entire crew scrambled to protect the treasure chests, while the ship slammed into our side, hooks bit our rail, and dozens of pirates poured onto our deck screaming at the top of their lungs. They tied us up and held us down to poles on the ship, and their biggest man hauled our first chest into the sunlight, wedged his axe under the lid, and cracked the seal open. My whole body froze with fear, because the gold belonged to the Queen, and if they stole it, the Queen's navy would hunt down this ship and hang every last one of us. Their captain strolled through the spilled gold. "The booty's mine, the ship's mine." He pointed at me and the other strongest men on the ship. "Get these dogs row for me now." His crew started unchaining us, and I raised my voice over their laughter. "Put it back, all of it. Sail away, and hope that Her Majesty never learns your names." The captain crouched down and pointed his hook at me. "Make him walk the plank." I gulped and tried my best to stay calm. A pirate pulled me up by the shoulders and shoved me towards a plank. He pointed at the ocean. "She's real feisty today. She'll have you dead in no time." My entire crew was forced to watch as I slowly put one foot in front of the other. The captain grinned. "Dead men tell no tales." And while my left foot hovered over the icy water, I heard screaming behind me. I turned around and their lookout shrieked, "Sail ho! The Queen's navy is here!" A warship 5 times our size filled the horizon. It had cannons locked and loaded and was ready to kill us all. The captain's grin died and he shrieked, "Put it back! Put it all back!" And grown pirates started shoveling doubloons into chests with their bare hands. One pirate knelt on the deck pressing 2 halves of a seal back together, and I leaned my head against the mast. "You can't unbreak a seal." He took out a gun and got ready to turn it inwards. Me and my sea crew were hauling treasure chests across the ocean when we heard a scream. My teacher ripped the switch out of my hands mid-Hollow Knight boss fight and dropped it in her desk drawer. Mrs. Deborah slid the drawer shut and pointed at the clock. You can come get it back after class. 2 weeks I'd been stuck on Nightmare King Grim, Hollow Knight's hardest fight. I'd snuck the switch in to grind through lunch and was one phase from beating him when the bell rang. I figured I could finish in class, not knowing today was test day. Now it was locked in her desk while she was passing out science tests. I was working through question 3 when her shoulders caught my eye. Hunched forward, brow tight, tongue poking out the corner of her mouth. 5 minutes in, I caught a sound from her desk, faint and unmistakable, and it was my boss music. Her thumbs were moving under the desk in tiny, precise bursts, and every few seconds her whole body flinched like she'd taken a hit. I raised my hand and asked for the bathroom. She waved me out without lifting her eyes, and I walked the long way around her desk. There it was, my switch wedged into her lap, Hollow Knight on the screen, 3 swings into the Nightmare King fight. I went back to my seat and stared at the test without reading a single question. The bell rang and everyone filed out and she called my name. She slid the switch across her desk without looking up from her gradebook. You were one phase out from beating Nightmare King Grim. I had time during the test, so I finished him for you. Saves at the next bench. You're welcome, kid. I almost laughed out loud. I picked up the switch and the thumbsticks were still warm. My science teacher just cleared Hollow Knight's hardest boss during a science test, and I couldn't wait to tell the boys. My teacher I placed the last box of brown hair dye into my shopping cart and continued walking, but when I turned around, I saw a woman in her mid-40s reaching into my cart and I walked up to my Uber and got inside. But then we stopped at the first red light and the door immediately swung open. A woman I'd never seen dropped into the seat beside me and screamed at the driver, "Admit you're kidnapping this child." My blood froze because I'd driven hundreds of times and this has never happened. My driver shook his head, but she pulled back her jacket and flashed a pistol. "I know you're kidnapping him. Now drive us to the police station." I gripped my seat in horror.